Ho, 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 everyone, and welcome to another day here on TryHackMe. We are talking Advent of Cyber, and yeah, more specifically talking about day number 11, Wi-Fi attacks. If you like WPR, press the star key. So today we're going to talk about what a Wi-Fi is. Well, that's the learning objective, I guess. Explore the importance of its importance for organization, learn different Wi-Fi attacks, learn about WPA, WPA2 cracking attacks. Now, I'm really disappointed that I didn't mention WPA3 because that is actually a standard you can go ahead and find sometimes. WPA3 is not feasible for cracking because it requires you to communicate with the access point every time you need to try one password. And then you can basically set some rate limiting on or some band fields and stuff like that you're actually sending too many requests. So not really feasible, not saying it is impossible, just saying you basically have to send and communicate with the Wi-Fi access point for hundreds of thousands of years in order to try different combinations. If a password is, for example, more than 8 characters long, so WPA3 is not really feasible for cracking. You can capture the handshake, but you need to communicate with the actual access point every time. Now, we started up the attack box again, just to make it 100% clear that we're using the attack box. And it does say that we can SSH into this address, so let's go ahead and do that. And say yes. And then the password is as it mentions on the screen. And I should definitely get access to no. Well, copy pasted because I'm kind of like that today. So we're copy pasting it. Now we have access to glitch Wi-Fi. Now I think the reason they want us to do this is basically because they want us to make sure that we're having a specific access point, specific machine we're logged onto with access to some specific access point that is Wi-Fi based. And since we do not have any Wi-Fi adapters connected to our machine, it's not really possible in a virtual environment. It's probably a pre-made room, so you just have to think right now that we, well, do have our access going. Now, they do talk about the importance of Wi-Fi, what it is, and so on. I think you should read it. I you probably all have connected to Wi-Fi before. If you haven't connected to Wi-Fi before, you shouldn't be in this video. I'm just gonna be honest. So the Wi-Fi's pivotal role in organizations. Well, I nothing much to say about it. You can go all wired in an organization if you want to do that. If you want to stick with that, it can be a little tedious, probably difficult sometimes to have the variable workstations. You have to sit at a specific spot every time. You are reliant on a table and a chair to be positioned at the same place every day. And you cannot just move your computer around because you will have a cable with you. Having cables laying around on the floor is not that practical, so that is why Wi-Fi is favored a lot. Also, a lot of connection on a Wi-Fi signal is being lost due to transmission through the medium of air. And basically, we're just talking about. Okay, so our instance been terminated. What's that? I don't know. Is we still have the connection to the. No, it is. It is actually disconnected. So we got disconnected. I don't know why. If that is something you experience, just click it again. I don't know. Maybe too many people are accessing machine right now, so that's probably just the case. Anyways, so whenever this is booted up again, we can connect to the machine right there, and it's gonna pop up and replace the machine IP with the actual IP. So I'm gonna wait for that. While we're waiting, we're gonna talk about different kind of attacks. We got the evil twin attack, that is basically a duplicate of the same name of the access point, the one you connect to, which is something like, this called, if it's called OK443S, well, then basically that's a name will duplicate, and you could probably choose that instead because you didn't know. Rogue access point, it's kind of the same as Evil Twin. It's just something that is near the user with a really good signal strength, and it's a good idea to try and pick a name that the user will connect to. WPS attacks is the 8-digit pin that you can use when you're connecting to your Wi-Fi access point. It was kind of favorable to use at some point in time, but people never really adapted to it. I guess some used it. I never heard about anyone in Denmark using the WPS to connect. I only seen like a few smart TVs and stuff like that use it because that is the way it was like favored through the connection protocol. Mainly because it was difficult to enter all the passwords and stuff with a remote control. I don't know why. We're back to WPA cracking. WPA2 cracking and WPA cracking is basically all about you got to capture this is for something called a four-way handshake. Now, the four-way handshake is a packet sent out in the air from the device that wants to connect to the Wi-Fi access point. That packet then contains the four-way handshake, which is basically, well, not one package, but that will contain the password encrypted. And if we know, and we do have that password in the password list, we can basically crack it. So basically saying, is this password, is it this password, is it this password, and so on until the hashing mechanism behind the encryption will say, hey, I have the same hash now as the one we captured. So that is why we call it brute force. All right, so let's go ahead and connect to the machine one more time. We have the IP address. There we go. Let's paste it in, and we're gonna type yes, and I will take the password and I will paste it in, and now I should be back if I did this correctly. I obviously did not. Let's try one time. I should be. No, let me write it. There you go. Yes. So, anyways, now that we've accessed one more time, they gave us the rocku.txt. We can output the top of it by typing head, and we can then see the top of the password list. We can also write tail, which will then give us the bottom-most. I think it's 10 or something like that. Yes, 10 most bottom passwords. This is not the full Rocku password list. The full Rocku password list is a lot bigger than 4013 bytes. This is just a small one because this is a an example. All right, so we talked about it, and you can watch the how cute. So we did actually talk about it, and I think you should definitely read about it. But the vulnerability lies in whenever you are connecting, and then basically you can capture that for a handshake, and then you can attempt this called offline brute force attack, or you can also call it a dictionary attack. And in this particular case, we're most likely going to use the RockU. So going to the practical, in our SSH session, which is the one we're in right now, run the iv.dev command. So iv.dev, and we can definitely see here that we have a interface called WLAN2, and it's the more or less the same as we see here. Actually, it's exactly the same. All right, so if device is available to us and there's no important details to take away from the output, the address, it just explains it. So let's continue. Now we would like to scan nearby Wi-Fi networks using WLAN2 device. Sorry for that. We can use sudo iv dev WLAN2 scan. The dev WLAN2, it's difficult to say these kind of shorthand terms, specifies the wireless device you want to work with, and scan tells the IV to scan. So let's go ahead and run the command right there. So I'm going to paste it in. Let's see if it works. It does. So now I'm scanning. And we will probably soon see some output. There you go. So the output here is, there's a lot of information to dissect here, but the most important details indicate the device is an access point. The BSSID and the SSID devices are, then we're looking at something like this, and malware AP respectively. Since the SSID is shown, this means the device is advertised in network name, which access point do to allow clients to discover and connect the network. Now, you can also hide it. Sometimes whenever you are trying to connect to a network, the SSID, which is the or the BSSID, depending on what kind of how they're hiding it really. But you can see here, like, this is the SSID is the name, and sometimes it's hidden. You cannot see it, but you can definitely see the BSSID, which is the where it was again. Let me see, where was it? They're showing it. They're not showing it. Oh yeah, they're showing it up here at the top. It's a little weird one. It's probably because this is a lab, but I yeah, well, doesn't matter too much. But it's a collection of two sets. The first set, I believe, is the vendor of the access point, and the last three is the unique identification of the access point. So you can always find out which access point it is by looking at the first three pairs of two, and then you should be able to look it up and say this is a Wi-Fi access point from whatever company. All right, so they also talk about that the group and pairwise ciphers CCMP can't write mode with the cipher block chaining message, authentication code protocol. All these kind of things is great to read, but it doesn't really do you anything. What is kind of important is just to pay attention to the channel it's sending on, and you can see that this is set on channel number 6. The important part about the channel is, have you ever read about the Wi-Fi speed up your Wi-Fi at home guides, where you're told to go into an access point and change your channel to an unused channel? Well, think about this way. Think about, you have 15 different channels. Let's replace channel now with a pipe. And inside that pipe, you can yell some words, and the other side of the pipe can then hear it, and they can yell back. Right? That's the connection. Imagine that more people yell in the same pipe every time. It's becoming more and more difficult to understand what's actually going on. At some point, like a lot of people, in this particular case with signals, going to be a lot of signals, but really fast, your signal can actually suffer some, downgrades. So it's going to be slower, some lost packages, and so on. So choosing a channel for a Wi-Fi access point that is not used basically enables you to have a more quiet communication without a lot of people yelling or a lot of signals in the air, to use another more technical way of saying it. So I'm just saying right now, please be aware that it's very important. There are two different kind of gigahertz you can choose from: 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. Now the 2.4 gigahertz is a type of gigahertz that can go through most things, but it will lose some signal strength whenever it goes through like walls and so on. But it can go through walls and trees, and it's mostly used because it got a wider range. So whenever you go up to 5 gigahertz, like the one I have it marked already, but the 5 gigahertz is something that is like, think about it more like a room. So you have one room with one access point, and in that room you can be send out a signal using the 5 gigahertz, which is gonna be, some say it's faster. Well, the thing about 5 gigahertz is that it's kind of interruptible, so it doesn't go through anything really. Just a piece of glass is really bad for the signal, so I wouldn't necessarily say it's a good idea to use it. But if you want a signal that it's consistent, to choose the gigahertz of the range of 2.4. All right, so in this particular case, let's see what is another important detail is that the show channel 6 in terms Wi-Fi, specify range and so on. Wi-Fi spectrum allows wireless communication, various Wi-Fi channels, and they held up distributes network traffic across various frequency ranges with reduced interference. The two most commonly channels, yes. Channels 1, 6, and 11 are commonly used because they don't overlap. Yeah, it's I think I'm gonna skip that, but overlap basically means that there are some signals that do overlap in the spectrum. It's gonna be a bit difficult to explain it, so I'm gonna leave it there. So now it's gonna be a good idea to discuss another type where we can use some wireless device monitor mode. Now, monitor mode basically it's the command I'm sitting right here is that we are saying like I want to set my WLAN 2 card to monitor mode. That basically means that we are enabling our Wi-Fi adapter, which is the antenna that actually receives the signal, sends the signal, right, to be able to look at all other package in the Wi-Fi spectrum that is not intended for itself. It's very important to understand that. Not all Wi-Fi adapters support monitor mode. It's also called promiscuous mode. I don't know if they mention that here. In all honesty, I'm just going on the knowledge I have about Wi-Fi cracking, but I'm not really seeing any mentions of something called promiscuous mode. I'm just carefully looking, but it is a very common term. So what we're gonna do now is take our access point down, our network, and then we're gonna alter it to monitor mode, and then we're gonna take it back up. And that is the only way you can do it. There you go. And if we then again go and check out the information of the WLAN 2 card, we should now be able to see that it is set into monitor mode. And depending on the type of software you're using or you have been using before, if you ever have used, like, let's say, aircrack, the suite, you know something like WLAN Mon 0 and these kind of things, which is a short term for monitor mode. But at the moment, we're just following the guide. Now let's create one more SSH session so we have two separate terminals. Okay, let's do that. So I'm gonna park this right here and make it this big. I'm gonna open up a new terminal, and we still haven't, we don't know why, but we're just gonna do it, right? So I'm gonna scroll up and copy paste the same command as before and type the password. I think it was correctly typed, else I will have to do it again. I'm extremely bad at this. I think I got it. Yeah. So let's clear the screen. And now on the first terminal, we will start capturing the Wi-Fi traffic in the area, specifying the target WPA handshake packets. We can do this with the command called error dump. And this is a command that is a part of aircrack suite. There's a lot of them. They mostly start with air, as in some other name, and ng in the end. It provides a list of the nearby Wi-Fi networks and show important details like signal strength, channel, encryption type. By default, will automatically switch its selected wireless interface into monitor mode if the interface supports it. Most does not. Anyways, go ahead and run it with sudo in front. Let's take the new one here below. So as you can see, it's actually switching channels like all through 1 to 15. And some of them you can see, and now something popped up here. Now this is a lab, so of course we do not have a Wi-Fi adapter with us right now, but you can see the name of it, also called the SSID. The cipher is mentioned right here. and you can see the amount of data being transferred back and forth, and the power is okay, it's not that bad. And now this is running. There's also something here below you can see. If the below ones here is being filled out, it's basically because station is a client connected to, and then if that BSSID here is mentioned there on the BSSID, and the station is another BSSID, it basically means a client is connected. Someone is using the internet. Okay? So the output reveals information we already knew before, such as BSSID, SSID in a channel. However, this is the particular output we are also given the channel where our target SSID is listening. Now we'll focus on the malware AP access point and capture the Wi-Fi WPA handshake, which basically means that they would probably have to simulate that someone connects to the internet. So let's go ahead and click Control C, and now we're gonna go ahead and use this command right there, which basically says like, okay, so, and pay attention to this. It says, Aerodom, please listen to only channel 6 because this is on channel 6. There we go, channel 6, go see that. And the BSS ID of the one that this access point have. And then save everything we have in the file called output file and use the card of WLAN2. So let's take this command right there and run it one more time. And I think we should leave this running until it is important to leave the command running until we're done with the attack. So now that we're not done with the attack, it should take between 1 to 5 minutes before receiving the client information. In our case, it will show like this. And as I talked about before, as you can see, the one here is the same as the BSID, which is owned by the malware access point. And the one access point, sorry, the MAC address right there is the one owned by the client connected to this access point. So this is a client connected to this one there. And we actually just got it here down below. So what we need to do now is to send something called a deauthentication packet. Deauthentication package is something that we send to the client. So the client is this one right here, that MAC address. So we basically say to the MAC address owned by this person right here, hey, yo, disconnect from the Wi-Fi access point, and it will actually do that. So we can tell the client connected to the access point called malware AP to disconnect itself. When it does that, most computers, tablets, smartphones, obviously like 99.9% of them, by default tries to reconnect automatically and resend the four-way handshake, which is why we are listening to package and capturing it right now. So when we take the command down here, say sudo air replay, which is also part of the aircrack, continue to send only one packet and send it to this access point, to this client, and this deauthenticate the client. Let's do that on the other one right here. Pay attention to the top here, right? So sending one packet, it's now deauthenticated. And if it worked the first time, and sometimes it does not, you have to send it again. But now it actually worked the first time. It says WPA handshake to this particular station. Now we have it. We captured the four-way handshake, okay? And it's showing exactly the same right there. So we are on track. Now what we're gonna do is to use sudo the aircrack, which is also a part of the aircrack-ng suite. We're gonna say like, I wanna crack the password. They didn't give you a, wow, that's very interesting. Anyways, they say like, we wanna crack the WWPA2, and it's gonna be on this BSID. And we're going to use this word list, and the output is in this file called output dot, anything in between wildcard character. So we basically saved it as the output dash file. Let's go ahead and now stop this right here. Type ls, and we see we got a few files called output file, blah blah blah, one cap. It is the cap file we need to use for cracking. So we can basically, where was it again? Take the command right there and copy paste it, put it in, now run it, and it will definitely try and crack it right now. It said key found, and the key is fluffy slash champ. It is the most weird key I've seen. So now that that is done, if you get the packet contains blah blah blah, it means that you ran. Yeah. So we didn't do that. Now we can join the malware AP. So what we're going to do now is clear the screen right there, and we can then, in order to connect to the malware AP access point, we can copy paste this command right there, and basically say inside here we will copy paste this part right there, which is seamlessly shown as the password, and save that in the config file. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and say, like, as you noticed, I accidentally connect now, shut down my microphone, and the sound is now recorded afterwards. Now, what I show in the video from on here is that I go through and talk about that there is an error. If so, we had it, but we can ignore it. Now we are going to connect ourselves to the access point of malware AP by, just checking what's inside the file. We actually are connected, and then we are going to check out the informations of the wireless interfaces, or the interface we have in our machine, and we're noticing that it does actually hold the malware access point name, and we're kind of done. So now we definitely need to find the different kind of informations, the BSID of the wireless interface. I'm not really sure exactly what they mean with it, so I do try a few of them to check out what they mean. Is it our own they mean, or do they mean the access point of the machine? But they actually did mean the access point of ours, I think it was. So our BSSID of our wireless interface. It did actually also said our, I just didn't read it really, so that's the problem sometimes with reading. So now I copied the right answer. And the next is going to find the SSID and the BSSID of the access point that we are trying to connect to, and we're going to call hack it. That's going to be the malware access point by copy pasting the first one, remembering to set the comma, and now copy pasting the BSSID and inserting that directly to its spot, which is ensuring a successful answer. Now we're going to find the BSSID of the wireless interface that is already connected to the access point, which is the client that I talked about at the start under the station tab, or headline, whatever we're going to call it. Copy paste it in. And now the PSK, the password, that's really easy one. Both just can scroll down on the window below and then find the password we have. And then we are basically done with all of this. So that is really how it's done. And one more time, I'm really sorry the sound got cut out. So I really hope that you actually learned something from this video, and you're going to think about your Wi-Fi passwords a bit more and how you actually have them. Not too short, not too long. And what I usually say in these videos is that one thing is clear to know, that in Christmas time, one thing is there to say is just